Mohnish Pabrai turned $1 into more than $6 in his first 13 years managing capital. Most people assume that comes down to which stocks he picked. He would tell you that's wrong. The real edge is how he thinks, and he got that directly from Charlie Munger. Not just the investing philosophy, the actual mental models behind every decision he makes. Now, this video isn't sponsored, but it is supported by all of you who buy premium access to Stock Investing Academy and its investing tools and courses. We also just added a brand new compounding calculator, and it is completely free to use, so definitely check it out via the link below. Okay, Mohnish, the stage is yours.
The bedrock model, and without this model, the other models don't work. So this is like, if you didn't buy into this model, then there's no point looking at anything else. And that is that you take a simple idea and you take it seriously. And if you don't go all in, then it just kind of just doesn't work. So no matter what we are doing, anytime we're using this lattice work of mental models together, we always have to have model one, which is the take it very seriously.
There is no shortage of good investment advice in the world. Buy great businesses at fair prices. Invest within your circle of competence. Everyone has heard these things. Most people nod along. And then they do something completely differently the next time the market gets excited or scary. The gap between knowing a principle and actually living by it is enormous. And the gap is where most investors lose money. Pabrai is not describing an advanced concept here. He is describing something much harder. The discipline to actually go all in on a simple truth and never make an exception.
So we think of the truth as being binary, kind of 1 or 0. You're either lying or saying the truth. But that's not really how the truth and lies work. It's actually on a log scale. So if we look at this graph and you go in the top right-hand end of the graph, that's where you might have Jesus and Buddha hanging out, extreme truth leading to extreme trust. Us humans aren't going to get there, but that's at the extreme end. That's kind of aspirational. And then if you go significantly below that, you get to many of us. And it's very important in life to try to move as far to the right of that curve as you can, because as you move further right on that curve, the payoffs are exponential. So if we look at a place like Costco, for example, they have a rule that nothing gets marked up more than 15%. And the end result of that is many of us are fanatical about Costco, right? And we're fanatical because that trust is in there. And that trust doesn't get built in 1 day or 2 days. It's just cascading sets of actions.
Trust is one of the most powerful modes a business can build, and it is one of the hardest things to fake on a balance sheet. When customers trust a company deeply, the way Costco members do, they do not shop around. They come back automatically, and that loyalty translates directly into stable, predictable revenue that competitors cannot easily take away.
The purpose of business is not to make money. The purpose of business is to deliver a great product of service to humanity. And if you do that, the money will follow. So if you start with the notion that I'm going to be an entrepreneur so I can get rich, you're not going to get rich. And it's not going to be such a fun journey. But if you start with the idea that I'm going to serve humanity in some great way, there's a basis to actually get there, which will be great.
This is actually one of the most reliable filters I use when evaluating a business. Ask yourself, does this company exist to extract money from its customers, or to generally solve a problem for them. Because the ones built around extraction tend to look great for few years, and then customers leave the moment something better shows up. There is no loyalty because there was never a real reason to stay. The ones built around genuine service are different. The money is almost a side effect. And paradoxically, those tend to be the businesses that generate the most of it for the longest time. Amazon is the obvious example. For years, Bezos reinvested everything back into making the service better and cheaper. And when the loyalty was deep enough, the financial results became obvious. So when you analyze a company, look at where the obsession actually lives. Is management focused on the customer or on the stock price? The answer tells you a lot about how durable this business will be in 10 years.
Bezos talks about these asymmetric bets, high upside, low downside. And he says that, in baseball, if you hit a home run, you get 4 runs. That's the maximum in baseball. But in business, there are possibilities of 1,000 runs. Model 4, for me, has always been the bedrock, which is heads I win, tails I don't lose much. So I configure it in a manner where if things don't work, it's irrelevant, almost no downside. And if things do work, then it's 1,000 runs.
Before asking how much you can make, ask what happens if you are completely wrong. If the thesis breaks, how much do I lose? If the downside can wipe you out, it does not matter how good the upside looks. What destroys most investors is not bad research, it is bad position sizing. They put too much money into something risky because the story sounds incredible, but then something breaks and a setback becomes a permanent loss of capital. Heads I win, tails I don't lose much. That is not just a business model, it is the entire game of long-term compounding.
And then, be a shameless cloner. Sam Walton said that there has never been a human that came before him, and there's never going to be a human that comes after him who's visited more non-Walmart stores than he has. Everything about Walmart was copied from someone else. Sam Walton did not come up with anything new. Everything that worked at Microsoft was stolen from somewhere else. So Word from WordPerfect and Excel from Lotus and Windows from the Mac, and even MS-DOS it wasn't stolen, it was bought. And Microsoft spends a lot of money on research, and nothing's come out of that. Everything has come out of cloning. And even now, with all the AI and everything else that they're doing, it's not coming from inside. It's coming from outside. And so cloning is a very powerful model. There are many smart people around who already figured things out. And the world can accommodate multiples of the same thing. So just because there's a Starbucks doesn't mean that no one can do another coffee shop.
This is probably the most underused tool available to retail investors. Every quarter, the largest and most successful fund managers in the world are legally required to disclose what they own. Now, the important caveat: these disclosures are delayed by about 45 days. So you are not seeing real-time positioning. And you always need to do your own research before acting on anything from the 13F filing. Use them as a starting point, not a buying signal. But as a resource of ideas, there is almost nothing better. Borrow the idea from someone who has done enormous work, then ask whether it still makes sense today at the current price. That combination is really powerful.
another model which is very important is any market that you're going after, 2 or 3 players will have 80 to 90% of the market. It doesn't matter whether it's, paper clips or airplanes. So if you say that this is a $10 billion market and I only need 2% of it, it's not going to work. What that means is that you have not done the segmentation. So what needs to happen is you need to say, okay, this is a market of this size, and my offering is so good that I can take 70% market share. So if you start out saying, I'm going to take 2% of a large market, you're going to fail. But if you say, I'm going to take 70% of the market, you've got a chance.
As Pabrai just explained, 2 or 3 players end up with 80 to 90% of any given market. The 2% framing is not a strategy, it is an avoidance of strategy. The companies that create serious long-term value are the ones that dominate a specific, clearly defined space. Costco owns the warehouse membership models. TSMC owns advanced semiconductor manufacturing. Visa owns global payment retail. None of them said, we just need a small slice. All of them built something so dominant in one area that competitors could not attack them. Now, I want to leave you with Mohnish and his own words on what happens when you combine all the models we just talked about together.
When we encounter these truths and we incorporate them into how we make decisions, we'll start getting advantages versus other humans who may actually work harder and maybe even be smarter and so on. And it's really when you start cascading the models together in the same direction for the same effort, that's when you get what Munger would call Lollapalooza effects. 1 plus 1 becomes 11, and 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 becomes over 1,000, and so on.